One of the biggest requests I've been having for the last, couple of weeks is the Nagels. Cheryl Nagel, Lindsey Nagel, Steve Nagel. Of course, Lindsey, you all know, she's in her 20s, and she was the one that was adopted from Romania as a baby. And they told the parents, you better get an HIV test, which was basically negative. And then the American physician said, hey, why don't you do that too? And they did. And, of course, it came back positive for any number of reasons. Now, initial stages in little Lindsey Nagel's life, they had her on the antiretroviral drugs, nearly killed her. And and Lindsey's parents that were adopting her, Steve and Cheryl, and we've talked about this and we've been on the air with them. I love them dearly. They elected to pull her off of those drugs, and it saved her life. At least 10 others, maybe more, were so-called diagnosed, if you will, by HIV positive by the test. They can't detect what they claim it detects. And every one of those other children at that time in Minnesota who remained on the drugs, every one of those children died. Every one, except little Lindsey Nagel, who survived because her parents pulled her off of it. Thanks to Peter Duesberg and others who put perspective on what had happened there. So now we come to present day, and little Lindsey Nagel is now in her 20s. She has just had a baby very recently, a healthy little baby, Rico. And unfortunately, she had that baby in a hospital. And you don't know how much the medical establishment, the AIDS establishment, the HIV allopathic worshipers have wanted to get back at this family for living. Because Lindsey Nagel lived. These drug-induced pharmaceutical fanatic maniacs, they can't live with themselves because little Lindsey Nagel didn't die because she came off of the antiretroviral drugs. And so they are now taking it out on her son, this little baby, who is basically a healthy child. And they insisted that this baby had HIV or something along those lines. And they said, if you don't drug your child with antiretrovirals and the like, we're taking your child away. And there were a lot of things going behind the scenes. And I know I've been silent on the matter, but there's been so much going on with the travel and different things I've been having to do behind the scenes here that I haven't had an opportunity to cover it on the air. Now, what I'm grateful for here is that others have. It used to be the Robert Scott Bell Show was basically the only show that was on top of these stories. And there have been a lot of others in the new media. Of course, a special shout out to Celia Farber as well, Celia Ingrid Farber. And I think just yesterday, I believe, the Nagels were on the Gary Knowles show as well. And Gary's been covering this subject for a long time, too. But because of our travel trips and everything, I haven't been able to get to it. Now, there's another story here. And by the way, we're going to cover this tomorrow more in depth. I've got Liam scheduled. We got Terry Michaels covered. We're going to be talking with the Nagels hopefully real soon as well to give you more. But basically, in essence, what's happening here is that this Lindsey Nagel is a survivor of the destruction of the construct that HIV causes AIDS. It blows the whole paradigm wide open, much like we do here, but it's a living example. They cannot have living testaments. So the target is, how can we get rid of little Rico to prove that HIV is still the deadly scourge that we claimed it to be when it is not, when the tests do not detect for HIV, when the so-called human immunodeficiency virus can't even be isolated. And so the way that they do this, they go about this, is they kill children, they sacrifice children on these drugs, just to say, see, I told you so. How dare you pretend that it is not what we say it is. There are so many conflicts of interest at National Institutes of Health, the World Health Organization, the CDC, on, that do not value life. They don't value the life of your child, any child. They'll sacrifice that child in order to keep the drug pipeline going, to keep you believing that HIV tests detect HIV and that HIV causes AIDS. 1 year from now, 6 years from now, 7, 20, 30, 40, 50, now it's not going to do anything at all. And now the story.
Well, that's not entirely true though, Robert, because one of the articles that we kind of caught at the last minute is this study It came out in the Wall Street Journal about how, at least I think it was the Wall Street Journal, but it basically just says it found that people with HIV were almost 50% more likely to have a heart attack than those who didn't have HIV.
But there's no HIV test. It doesn't exist.
I know.
It's cross-reactive. It's non-specific. Whatever that study is, Subran, it means absolutely nothing. Except it's wizardry, it's witchcraft, it's sorcery. Right. And now you have this claim that a child was cured, a baby was cured of AIDS, was cured of HIV through drugs. Oh my gosh! Never having confirmed or identified its positivity because you can't do it. And so they put this child on these drugs to say, oh look, see? We finally got it. We're winning the war on HIV. And the reason they're doing this, and you won't hear this on any other show, and I'll do this more tomorrow again with Lee and Terry, Michael and others. The reason that it's like a trial balloon. You know how they do that? Let's see which way the wind is blowing. What we have to do now, in order to quell the growing dissent among the population of planet Earth, the people that are now seeing through the scam that is HIV, they must now say, oh, look, it looks like we finally done it. We found a way to cure it. And HIV is no longer the deadly scourge. It's not going to kill you. All you have to do is get on these drugs. But now we have proof this baby is healed. So they can justify poisoning to death many babies so that one might live. And, of course, based on no science, no peer-reviewed journal published this. It is just a wild claim of a baby who they say was HIV positive, who they don't even know. And the fact is, even if it was, it is not, because the test is, may I say it again, non-specific, cross-reactive, and has no standards. No standards whatsoever. No standards whatsoever.
No standards whatsoever. None. Zero.
Yeah, so when you talk about this, oh, but what about the baby that was cured of HIV? It's an absolute BS scam article that would not pass muster in a fourth grade science class. Throw drugs at a baby.
But it's plastered all over the media.
Yeah, this is the way it goes.
All over the place about the huge development, breaking news. Mm-hmm. But as you said, there's no news that's been broken. This is old news. Really, this is just another way for them to prop up their propaganda. And I just think it's interesting that we've got all this coming out at the same time.
It is. This is a psychological operation. The PSYOP, the AIDS industry, needs to survive to live another day. And they're going to extend it out by saying we're finally making progress. Here's evidence. We have this baby that's been cured. And if you look at this, it's just embarrassing. Anybody who claims to be a scientist or a doctor, if you believe this lie, believe this garbage, I've got some chemotherapy to sell you in a Flintstone vitamin to make you feel really good. Right? You follow that?